everybody. Welcome to Event About It, the Dynamic Dialogue After Show. I'm your host, Megan Martin, and I am back today with trade show Carly Heideger, a senior revenue leader in the trade show world who's built her career in exhibit and sponsorship sales, working complex, high-stakes association events. In the main episode, we talked about judgment calls, revenue pressure, and what leadership looks like on the show floor. And if you're here for the after show, you're probably someone who doesn't just work in events, you think about them all the time. Here in the after show, we're slowing it down to talk about career identity, imposter syndrome at senior levels, and what it really means to love this industry long enough to question it. This is where the conversation is going to get a little quieter and a lot more honest. A few light ones before we dig into all the beautiful events information. So you love to read. I love to read. You mentioned to me in our prep call that you have a Goodreads goal. What is your Goodreads goal?
It is like 30 books a year. So I do know that there are some people who like blow me out of the water when it comes to that.
Yeah, I met someone
Which,
recently whose goal was read 84 books last year. And
yeah,
I
I know
love to read, but
people,
damn, that's a lot.
yeah, same. Like, but I got a lot of work to do too. Um, but yeah, I am a big goal person, like being in sales, like you have a
Yeah.
lot of revenue goals to hit. So it's nice to like set a Goodreads challenge.
Okay, so 30 books a year. What are you reading right now?
So I also, probably because I am an event person and this is how my brain works, I read like multiple books at a time. And I do read a good range. So I love a good beach read. And then I like to read a couple like nonfiction books just about topics that I don't know a ton about. And then I love to read business memoirs. So I'm not super big on like a business book on like how to get better at XYZ. I'd love to read about someone who actually already did it. And I can learn back all about it. So, for example, right now I'm reading Keith McNally's memoir, which he
Okay.
is a restaurateur, or former restaurateur in New York City. And so just talking about his journey of like hospitality. I read a lot of those types of books towards the end of 2025. They read, I mean, one, I love dining and all of that. So it's just nice to, I live really right outside of New York City. So it's nice to be able to hear and learn about how those restaurants came to be, but also it translates so well
Yeah.
to our business. So that's kind of been on the rotation so far. I have a couple of nonfiction books like in my fiction books in my to be read pile, but that next one also looks like a Carolyn Kennedy biography. So
All
all across
right.
the board.
Yeah, you're spreading the gamut of what you're reading
Yeah.
these days. I love it. Okay, the other thing that you and I both became fast friends over is our love of travel and going as
Yes.
many places as we can, experiencing them. All right, favorite place you've ever been and your bucket list destination right now?
You talking personal or for work?
Personal. We'll get into work travel, but
Okay.
personal.
I loved Venice. I solo traveled in Venice about 2 years ago. I am not scared of solo traveling, and it was the one city where I was like a little anxious to go to by myself, like a place where there's literally no cars and you're, a younger girl in a city that you don't speak the language. I was a little anxious about, and everyone who had told me to go was like, it's right out of a dream. It's right out of a postcard. I'm a big water person. Um, and I probably think about it every single day. Um, and it's a place where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to need to go back to it. It's a small city. If you've ever been to it, you can probably see everything in 2 or 3 days. And I'm just like, I have to go back to that vibe, to that atmosphere. Um, Bucket list is I would love to go down to Patagonia.
Mm.
So all the way down in South America. Fun fact, as much as I love to travel and I work on aviation events, I'm a very anxious flyer. And you have to take some pretty tiny planes to get to Patagonia. So we're gonna like
Yes, you
work
do.
up to getting there.
Okay, I like that. So, speaking of event travel,
Mm.
you said one of your goals is to do events on 6 of the 7 continents. So, one,
Mhm.
I want to know why not all 7? Like, who doesn't want to do an event on Antarctica? I mean, I'm jumping to conclusion here that that's why you
That would be the
excluded
one. Yeah.
7. Like, why not Antarctica? And how many have you done so far?
Yeah, so I do need to revise that because everyone I tell is like, go for all 7. Like, why are you selling yourself short? And I'm like, well, it's a theme. So I have produced events on two continents. I've done obviously events in North America, and then I have produced events in Europe. I've been to events in Asia. I had the privilege of going to China last year to see one, but I have not produced it yet. So that does
Okay.
not count in terms of my bucket list of seven
Agreed.
out of seven continents.
Okay. You gotta just put
Yeah.
Antarctica, like manifest it to happen.
There's
Like
got to be
private
some
jets
type
go
of
to
science
Antarctica.
show. Yeah.
Or
That we
like a
can do.
private cruise or something. Like maybe there's an
Ooh, like a luxury
exploration
private
event.
trip.
Yeah.
Even better.
Do like a
Even better.
luxury something.
Yes.
I mean, I think you could get there easily.
Hmm.
Okay, last fun question before we dig into some like event things. So you and I both are lovers of Bravo. So all day long,
Yes.
count us in. Talk to us about Bravo anytime you see us at an event on the show floor. One of your dreams is to bring reality TV to events. And a lot of us have talked about this. And I don't
Hmm.
think any of us really want to air our dirty
No.
laundry about events on TV. How do you think we could actually make this happen? Like you
We
mentioned
gotta.
below deck in the podcast episode,
Yes.
which we are kind of like the land deck, if you
Oh
will.
my God, we're so land deck.
We're like
Um,
we're concrete deck, we're convention center deck.
concrete deck.
You know, we could
There's so much
find
to
a
do here.
name
Yeah.
for it, but like how in let's give Bravo a tip. Let's help
Mhm.
them get there a little faster. Like where is it the pre-planning part? No
So that's what
executive
people have
actually wants to air
said.
that. So,
Yeah, so there's like the Hard Knocks thought, which is on HBO, right? The
love
lead up
Hard
of an
Knocks. Yeah.
entire season. Do you follow a team through the entire season? Which I think you could, because I think most of what's so fun about events is see like if you find a good team, right? I'm not going in front of the camera on this. I will be behind the camera, but if you find a good team, it'd be fascinating to follow you through. Again, like I had said on the show, I compare trade show seasons, show cycles to sports teams, right? You
Yeah.
can the magic's just a little different every time. You can never recreate it exactly how it was, and you won't be able to predict exactly how it's going to be. So I think that's a potential model. Or is each episode just an, a different show on site and you're doing a day of following around that team? I think either one could be good. But yeah, the problem is none of us want to put our careers in front of the camera, which I do
No.
think is what happened in the beginning of Below Deck. I've seen interviews where some of the captains or some of the chief stews have been like, who did it in the early stages, were like, people were laughing at us. They were like, this is the end of your career. And I feel like they probably make more money than I do right now. So who's
Kimmy
laughing now?
Kate
Yeah.
Chastain's been on Traders twice. Like
Yeah.
she's one of the only repeat people to go back. Like she's had an incredible career for being
Yeah.
a total bitch on that show. Like
Yeah.
it's like her brand now, and I'm obsessed with her. So look, sign
Obsessed.
me up. Anybody who wants to produce events, like sign me up. I'm happy to be
Yeah.
a guest on there.
Yeah. Love
It
it.
would be
It's
an
going to happen.
entertaining show, without a doubt. I
I
have
think we also potentially start with like some really good like Netflix produced documentary about us. Like how many documentaries have you watched about like the most random industry that you are not connected to? Like I
I
do
mean, I
think
watch
that's a
Mob Wives shit, so, like, yeah,
right.
I would definitely watch
Okay,
it.
clarifying you're not connected to that. So I think like that, but that's genuinely like in my world of like, how would we make this happen? Like we have to just get a good documentary about like the
Yeah.
impact that the events and the mice community has on the world and capture the attention, and then people are going to want more.
All right, I'm already, like, gonna send a note as soon as this is over to Kyle Shore at Wisdom Capture and be like,
Yeah.
"Kyle, you're doing documentaries for associations, like, how do
Yeah.
we produce one
How do we
for"
get this done?
Yeah, how do we do it?
Yeah.
How do we do it? Okay, well, let's get into some event talk. So you sit at the intersection of revenue, marketing, and experience. You get to see how kind of all of that evolves firsthand. So I want to know, how has the role of sponsorships and exhibits fundamentally changed in the last few years, especially thinking post pandemic? I mean, I honestly, I don't even think about the event world pre 2020. I mean, everything changed so much after the pandemic. I don't even think in terms of pre 2020 at this point. Really, it's 2023 and beyond because everything's so different now. And what are some of the things that you've seen evolve, maybe the formats or sponsors offerings that you're bringing to market now?
Yeah, so much. I feel like my career really, when it came to events and my expertise really took off post pandemic. So it's actually even been interesting or sometimes like funny when people will tell me how it happened. Let's throw it out 10 years ago. And I'm like, oh, you got to do that before. Like, you got to do that in the good days, which I did too. I had that too. And we're in the good days now. Like, this is the best job in the world. But it has changed so dramatically. I mean, one, just your pacing's off, which I think everyone knows, right? Like, you cannot, and we're starting to hit a rhythm again now that we're a solid four. Most events have had 4 solid shows since coming out of COVID. So your pacing can start to reset. But in the beginning, like 2022, 2023 was awful in trying
Yeah.
to say to your CFO, we're going to end up here because that's typically where we were. And just buying's changed. The buyers have changed. Like we've iterated a whole new group of buyers, people who have left their jobs and had to relearn. And it used to always be about ROI. I think this is what's interesting. I was in a network group earlier today and we talked about this. It used to be always about ROI. We spent X amount of money on your show. We need to get X amount of money in leads or in deals done. And that's just not how the world buys anything anymore, even from a consumer standpoint. And so it's been a little bit of pushback when you're selling to sell on all of the other reasons that you need to be a part of a show. But then for the most part, the actual event person or the marketing person is with you on that. It's kind of the background people who have to manage budgets and have to manage the numbers, who are still like, no, we need to connect that right back to a sale. And like what I mean by that, I think we've all talked about like post-pandemic, we realized how important we were going to need live events because we need to be around people.
Yeah.
And then there's again tons of talk about in the dawn of, or really we're not even in the dawn of it, we're in the thick of AI, how important an event's going to be when it comes to all of that. So you really still have to sell like a little bit on the return on emotion you're going to get, the return on experience, the return on objective, the return on the relationship. Like there's so much more that goes into it. The problem is we haven't completely shifted everyone's mindset to that yet. Sponsorships, I mean, a whole new world too.
Yeah, my next question was going to be, I think we've moved beyond the logo slap sponsorship. And I think people are looking at full portfolios of events. I was having this conversation yesterday. It can't just always be lead. Not every show, every event is going to be a lead capture. I mean, some of the dinner series that people are doing or regional or field marketing, like not everything is going to be a lead driver. And to your point, that return on opportunity, return on emotion, all the other R's, insert whatever word you want after it. So moving beyond the logo slap, what are some of the sponsorship and or exhibitor asks coming to you? Like as marketers are evolving and these companies want to participate in events and shows, what are the things they're asking about? Because I know they're not asking like, oh yeah, it's no longer okay to be like, I'm going to have your logo all over the show. Like, great. So what? So what are they asking for beyond that?
Like I'm so over the word experiential. I know you've asked other guests, like, what word are you over? I'm over that word. Like the entire thing is an experience. From leaving your house to coming back into the door of your home is the experience. Like
if you've been through an airport lately, you know that's an
experience. So we have to move away from that word. So sponsors are just starting to demand, how can they bring whatever activation they're doing within their booth, how can they bring it to life in the rest of the show? But they also want to know what your ideas are. Because like maybe 3 years ago, we were like, great, like, what does that mean to you? If you had a magic wand, like, draw it up and I'll price it out. And they're like, no, now they're like, no. Like, what are your ideas? Like, what are you doing? I've already had to think through my booth. I've already had to think through everything else. What are you doing? What are your ideas? And so I've had to almost like preemptively do a lot of legwork on really big ideas to bring to people that might not speak to them. And then they kind of strip them down and we make them their own, which is fun. But there is a lot of work involved and you have to have partners like your contractors and your fulfillment ops people who understand that, hey, we're going to do a little bit of legwork up front. We're going to have to price these out. We're going to have to get some renderings. We're going to have to do a little bit of work to help dream up. And AI has been so helpful already. I can only imagine a year from now how much more helpful it'll be. And it might not sell in that way, but I need these tools to be able to go to these people and help them dream it up a little bit. And so that's been a fun new challenge. Initially, I think you think, oh, they're just going to tell me what they want to do. No, they want to hear from you on a little bit of that.
Yeah, I think what I'm hearing you say is like consultative selling. Like you're
Oh,
not
yes.
selling booths and or sponsorships from check a box, like tell us all the things out of this perspectives that work for you. You're saying to them like, or they're coming to you saying like, none of this is really hitting the box for me. Like this package doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And you're doing a lot more custom, like asking what is value to you and then kind of working backwards from that.
Yeah, and it definitely ranges with the companies that you work with, but I also call it very design-based selling. And I don't mean just visual designs, but like genuinely slowing down with them on what their plans are, what their year-long plan is. How does this fit into that? How's this going to have a legacy beyond the 3 days in Las Vegas and help us carry to our next event or help carry us to, next year? And so like let's design that together, and I'm the expert in my event. And so that's why they want me to be part of kind of a leader in that conversation, because maybe they've never been or they just don't know it as well as I do. So I
Makes
did love
sense.
what you said about not all events being lead based ones. We're headed to an event in like a week where I've even said to some of my sponsors, like, oh my God, this is where we get to spend time together. You would think like my big, massive event is where I would spend time with some of my big sponsors of the year, but I can't because that's a big lead driver. That's a volume game at that one. Whereas at this one, it's a really quiet, intimate event that we're just all going to get some FaceTime. They're going to get FaceTime with our attendees who they really want some good, thorough time with. And I get time with them in that more kind of intimate way. So I think it's really smart of people when you're looking at your event calendar, like you need a mix of those. They can't all be massive lead driver ones and they can't all be just intimate time together.
Yeah, agreed. Well, in that same vein, sponsorship fatigue is real. I mean, attendees are exhausted by it. I mean, eh,
Exhausted.
no one wants to be sold to anyway, but
No.
especially now, no one really wants to be sold to. So, how do we combat sponsorship fatigue? So, thinking what I mean by that is thinking beyond like the sponsor wants to do something, but they also know it could just get noisy and not have the impact because the fatigue is real on the attendee side. So, how do you blend the two to where you're maximizing the sponsorship, attendees are going to notice it, and it doesn't just get lost in all the noise and logos that might be around the show?
I'm very lucky. I have a lot of companies who say, we want to do what the attendees want. We want to do what the attendees, what attendee purposes are there. And that's why I say you've got to have a finger on your industry. You have got to be like married to the industry. You've got to know what they need. You have to know what they want. And you don't have to know all of it. I tell our salespeople, like, I'm not an aviation expert. I'm not a medical expert for the shows that we sell. I know enough. And then I know who the subject matter experts are of our shows that can really then tell me like what our attendees do, because that's what's going to get you results. I get asked a million times a year, what type of swag should we buy? I'm actually still a big believer in show merch and show swag, but I say all the time, what would you pick up? I pick up branded Sharpies. Sharpies are expensive. So if I can get a couple free ones at a show,
Fair.
amazing. Tide to go pens, another great one. I don't care that your logo's on it, but I just grabbed four of those. Like, what would you take? I say just like put yourself back in the situation.
Well, it sounds like more people need exhibit advisory councils, attendee advisory
Oh my gosh, if
councils.
you
Like
don't have
we
one,
don't listen enough, I think, as an
no.
industry. We make a lot of assumptions and then move on them. And this year, I hope more brands actually bring in facilitators to do listening sessions with
Yeah.
attendees, exhibitors, sponsors, like all the segmentations, because I think we get hung up on survey results, which are either the people who love your show or hate your show, and no
Yeah.
one answers them. So, like, now you're making decisions off like fragments of percentages of your audience. And we don't actually ask the right questions in the right ways to get answers that actually can drive a show forward.
Yeah. I would love to meet a show team that doesn't have some level of exhibit advisory council spot, like vendor advisory council. Like I'd love to meet you because I'd love to understand why and how that's serving you. Like a little bit of a challenge of how are you not listening to your people?
Well, I can tell you right now, some of these exhibitor councils are just full of your largest exhibitors that are like, your
Oh, no,
show's
no,
so
no, no,
great,
no,
your
no. It's
show's
not
so
the
great, everyone's so great, it's all so great. And you're just like, going back and forth about how fabulous the show is and not actually giving validated feedback in like a focus group type of
Yeah.
conversation. It's dog and pony shows of like, no, tell me your 5 exhibitors that absolutely hate your guts and are only here because the industry tells them they need to be here. Like, that's who I want to talk to.
Yeah, I would love to talk to just the 20 by 20 who shows up, maybe doesn't sponsor. They do a good job. Maybe they could do a little bit better. Maybe they could scale back a little bit. Like, I'd love to talk to just those middle of the road people where we're also a middle of the road show for them. We're not their most important show, but we're also not the first two or three shows on their chopping block. Like, I want to talk to the middle. And to your point about surveys, we're either talking to people who are like, these are the greatest shows of all time. I would die without them, or people who like just want to tear us to shreds. I'm like, can I just meet a middle of the road person
Yeah.
who like comes to the show? Maybe they don't come to the show every year, had some good experiences, had some things that didn't go well. Like, we're the middle of the road people.
Yeah, and like, why are we asking about food and beverage on surveys? Like, I don't care if the coffee was cold.
Especially,
Like, it was 3 weeks ago, guys.
well, and
Move on.
especially if their show is moving around. There's nothing more annoying in
Yeah.
like a post con when they're like, I didn't like the food. I'm like, well, we're not going back there for another 5 years. So productive comment. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's nothing I can do about it now. So super, super
Yeah.
helpful there. Okay, so kind of shifting gears a little bit. What do
Yeah.
you think senior leaders outside of events most misunderstand about how revenues actually working at shows? Like, I think some people don't really understand the revenue side of events, and I think CMOs and CROs miss this a lot. Hence, the every show should be a lead driver, and that's just in reality not the case. So, what do you think is misunderstood about revenue at events?
Oh, I mean, I think it's partially misunderstood that events are solely out there to make money. And I'm speaking particularly to association events
Yeah.
where I've had our team and the people that I sell shows with really lean back on the association's mission the last year. And we're really going to lean into it in our sales strategy in 2026 because this event at the end of the day is a moneymaker for the association because it funds everything else that they need to do on the industry's behalf all year long. You do not go to Capitol Hill for free. You do
Yeah.
not support workforce development for free. You do not run other types of important surveys, maybe a compensation survey or a DEI survey. You don't do any of that for free. They need money to do that. And that's where the event comes in. And so, first and foremost, when you are investing, particularly in an association event, you are investing back in your industry. You are not just investing in an event. If I ever sell non-association events, I'm really gonna have to like reset my mind on some of how that works. But as of right now, like you're investing back into your industry, you're investing back into your workforce, you're investing back into lobbying efforts that are so important. And then I think the other thing where people get confused with revenue on events is like we're all just out there having fun. And I find that to be challenging because I make everything look like a lot of fun. If you ask people in my personal life like what I do, they're like, she goes away for 2 weeks and she comes back really tired. Like, yeah, I just was hospitable to 18,000 people. Thanks. I'm a little tired. But I think maybe like some chief people think they're just sending their teams to these cities to have fun, to party, to have a nice dinner. Um, when that's not always the case. It's a part of it. Like I won't shy away from the fact that that's a part of it, but there's so much more that goes into it. And again, as we continue to start to see AI really infuse itself into our lives, like we're gonna have to get out there and really see what's real, especially if you're in a very product heavy industry. You're gonna have to go touch that stuff for real.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I don't think we do ourselves any favors either as
No.
event professionals or marketing professionals that are out at these events because we're only posting the highlight reels, the
We are.
concerts, the VIP parties. We're
Yeah.
not posting the 4 a.m. wake up after I closed a party at 1 a.m. and have to be back in a convention center that's empty to welcome 18,000 people. Like, we don't share the
There's
trenches.
That Adele TikTok sound of like in full fucking glam at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday. My fulfillment manager's name is Molly, and so she's my partner in crime and everything. And her and I, first of all, the morning of our show open this past year, we woke up at 3:30, 4 a.m. to take a shower to ice cold. First, there was no water, and then it turned on and it
Oh,
was
Lord.
ice cold. And then you're in full fucking glam at 5 a.m. on a Tuesday. And yeah, I went to bed at 1 a.m. Or you could see the blisters on my feet, or you can see the miles we've clocked. Like you hit a point at a trade show where you've clocked so many steps, your body just starts to shut down. Like that's just not a
Yeah.
normal amount of walking for any given person. So
Or like for me, I occasionally will, like if I'm in the DC area, will bring my dad to an event. He works in a completely different industry,
yeah.
doesn't really get it, but he was like, "Oh, we went to the Smithsonian for a private party." And I was like, "Yeah, that's great. I'm glad you had a great time at the party. You had no idea XYZ and Secret Service tried to shut us down because the
Yes,
president
all
was
the
next
stuff that was
door and like
happening.
all the stuff behind the scenes that we had to do." He was like, "Oh, we went to the Smithsonian for this
Yeah.
great party." I'm like, "I'm glad you had a great
Which is the
time."
below deck vibe of it, right? Like we wanted you to just think that you went to the Smithsonian, but like behind those doors, man, there was a whole staff
Yes.
freaking out.
Which this will be an interesting take on our conversation about the reality show. So Below Deck is doing their first crossover. Like this is the first like
Really?
crossover Bravo episode. So this is full tangent here. So, Salt
You're
Lake City
good.
went on Below Deck. They
Yes.
took their like cast trip
Yes. Okay, with you
and
now.
went to Below Deck. I don't
Hmm.
remember where they were in the world, but it was Captain Jason and that crew and Daisy. Well, they also recorded that same trip from the Below Deck side. So on this season of Below Deck, we're going to see the crew's reaction to everything
Perspective.
that went on. So I'm super intrigued, and that would be a super interesting take on our
It would be
reality show is like we follow an
the
attendee.
attendee's perspective.
Yeah. And there
It would.
kind of was a show on Netflix, now that I'm recalling, called 7 Days Out. That was actually really interesting. It followed like the
Wait, I
Kentucky
did.
Derby and a few other
Yes.
shows. This is where my super nerd of love of events come. But I was watching the Victoria Beckham documentary like months ago, whenever it came
Yeah.
out. And they were doing the part where she was doing her first fashion show. And she was like, I want it to be
Hmm.
different. I'm going to go rent this like mansion outside of Paris to do it. And then it was pouring rain, everything's muddy, and they're like, should we cancel, should we not? And that was like 3 minutes of the whole documentary. And I'm like, tell me more about how did they combat the mud? Like, I want to
This was
know
me with the
more.
Taylor Swift documentary. I mean, yeah, it was great to see all about like how wonderful Taylor Swift is, big fan. But I was like, I need this documentary to be like, how did they travel with these gowns? How did they build this set? Like, how was load in of this set that they probably only loaded in like 24 hours? They
No,
were
they
arriving
had
in these
two
cities.
sets. So they would
Yes, like
send one to the
the
next show,
next
like while the
city.
other show was already going on. Insane.
That was literally me. I loved the documentary, but I was like, okay, I need an entirely separate documentary on like her true operations team that
Yeah.
pulled this off in every continent of the world, in 6 out of 7 continents, I think, maybe five.
I mean, I'm sure Taylor Swift has a 7 out of 7. Like, I'm going to do a show in
Goal.
Antarctica.
Yes. Yes.
Well, maybe that's a great way to combat some of the misunderstandings that executives have about events. Like, we just got to do a documentary about it.
Yeah, we just got to show them.
Yes. So, kind of in the same vein, we heard us both say this. We've talked about it before, but being in the events world is one of the only jobs where you can stand in the heartbeat of your work. And has that perspective changed when you think about success or the legacy that you're going to leave in events?
I hope if there is one legacy that I can leave on the event world or the people that I end up working with, it's that like just the gratitude moment of there are so many jobs in the world. 80% of this job is sitting on your computer. Like it's being in meetings, it's being in another meeting, it's being in another meeting after that. It's emailing, it's emailing, it's emailing, it's phone calls, it's phone calls. Like 80% of this job is
Spreadsheets inside of
all
spreadsheets,
it's
like
yeah,
it's
it's
everything.
spreadsheets upon spreadsheets of budgets upon forecasting upon reforecasting upon actually we don't care that this is your forecast number, just get back to the budget number. Like it's a desk job. But there are jobs where you people are probably putting in the same amount of work and effort that we are into a project and they ship it off on their deadline and that's it. They never see it again. They don't see the result that it had. I have seen companies go from startups in little tiny booths and because they were at our events, big deal companies, or they've sold those startups for millions of dollars, and now they're living like, I have seen that iteration, or I do take a moment and I tell everyone, whether you work in education, if you're in registration, if you are in operations, if you're in the meeting side, if you're on the exhibit side, like, go take a minute when you are on site and go stand in your area. If it's in education rooms, if it's if it's on the dock, if it's on the show floor, like, go take a minute and stand there. This is what you just spent 52 plus weeks working on. Like, go absorb it, go live it. And maybe that's the trade show junkie in me that's just so freaking excited that we did this, that we pulled it off again. But to go back to a Bravo reference, like Captain Lee says, like, it's the best damn job in the world. People say, like, do you cry on site? I cry in those moments.
Absolutely. I mean, my number one favorite time on show site is walking the venue at like 5 o'clock in the morning. No one else is there. Everything is set. And you're just going through with your little your checklist and your
Yeah.
coffee, and it's quiet. It's like the calm before the chaos.
Yeah.
And like, oh my God, I'm getting chills even thinking about that
There's a
moment. It's
trade
like
show
my favorite.
smell. Like, there's a smell when you do that. The vinyl's been unwrapped, the vacuum's been out.
Yeah, well, that kind of leads me into my next question. So
Yeah.
we love there. You're right. There is no industry that literally gets to see their work come together, and I think that's a lot of why this work is so addictive, because you get to see your work come to life, and not a lot of people get to do that. But in the same vein of that, and we probably need to trademark this for you, but you've described the post-show blues. And it really is just watching months, sometimes even years. I mean,
Yeah.
I was on a 24-month planning cycle when I was working for an association. Years of work disappear overnight. I mean, the shows get taken down faster than it takes to build them.
To
And
build them.
there is a mental component to that. So walk us through what you mean by post-show blues.
Yes, I do think I've coined post-show blues, because as soon as I describe it to someone, they're like, "Oh my God, I felt that." It is the moment where they do, like, literally, I mean, you've seen it, Megan, like, it's 3:59, show becomes 4 o'clock, and it just gets torn down. But I've worked so hard on this. I've put my literal blood, sweat, and tears into this, and so have 50, 10, however many other people have. I am so incredibly blessed. I've been working with the same group of people I've been with my organization for almost 11 years. I've been on the same client for 6. They are some of my best friends in the world. We've worked so hard together. The best part about an event is the teamwork. I was not athletic growing up. I was not on a lot of teams. And so, like, my chance to be on teams here is the best part. And so we've worked so hard together. We've pulled this off together. There is so much adrenaline that goes into it. There are, like, some studies that say, like, yeah, like, your adrenaline's just been spiked for days, maybe even like a couple weeks. You have probably not slept very well. And then all of a sudden it comes crashing down. Everyone leaves, they tear it down, and it's over. And so I get genuinely sad and genuinely depressed. And I had mentioned it before about the magic behind each season. And I know that I'm not going to be recreating that. I'm getting better at telling myself, we're going to recreate it again. And it's going to feel different, but it's going to be just as great. But I know that I'm not going to be able to recreate how great this past show season was. And even when it's hard, we've had some hard years these past few years. And so, yeah, I call them post-show blues.
And I think it's true even for event marketers, maybe that don't have an own show, but maybe they're just exhibiting. And, you spend a year plus building some of those large booths. Like I have clients that work with that we have these massive 40 by 40, sometimes even bigger. Like, remember I went to SHOT Show one year and was amazed at some of these like 60 by 60, 80 by 80, like full buyout of an area, like double decker booths. Like even from a event marketer standpoint, it's the same. Like you spend years, months building these booths, designing them, seeing the renderings, and then you see it come to life. And then before the show's even over, you see all the Teamsters like lining up, like waiting for the minute the show is like over. And they're just like ripping your signs down, and you're like, be gentle. I spent a year and a half of my life designing that.
It's my pride and joy right there. Yeah. No, I think it's the same thing for anyone who's like, for whatever role you own in the show. Again, I don't really touch a lot of education right now, but like for someone who spent a year planning education tracks and looking at papers and getting that all set up, and all of a sudden they're all done. That's it. You never have to touch them again. Like that's so sad.
Yeah.
And again, I'm so grateful that we get to experience post show blues because that means you just experience something really incredible.
Oh, that's a great perspective. I love that. Okay, last couple topics as we're going to wrap up here.
Yeah.
So, one thing you and I have talked about quite a bit is and I think event people in general do this, and you and I are both, single gals, no kids,
Mm.
and it becomes your identity. I mean, we talked in the podcast episode about Trade Show Carly, like that's how people know you. It has become part of your being. I have made a whole career and personality out of Event About It now. And I am in a career transition from being event producer to now be on that leadership and thought leadership side of the industry. And I'm having a hard time separating, like I'm not a show producer anymore. I'm still in the events world, but it has evolved. And I think I'm kind of having a hard time letting go of my like meeting
Yeah.
planner personality because it was
Mhm.
so much of who I was for a long time. And I guess two questions, like one, is that a good or bad thing in your opinion? And if it's a bad thing, like how do we separate it, or should we separate it? Like, should we turn this into a positive somehow?
Yeah, it for sure. I say all the time, like trade shows saved my life. They're my longest relationship I've ever been in is with is with the events community at this point. If you take away my sister and my family, like yeah, like it's a huge part of who I am. And I think as you get older, like you understand that there's a balance. You understand that there's more to life than just this. And it's important to find what some of those things are, right? It's important to still have your family and friends and whatever that looks like for you in the world. And it's why it's important to take vacations that are not at convention centers. And it's not just, oh, I'm going to extend while I'm here. Like, no, go take a real vacation. Do not bring your computer. Go read a book. Go touch grass. Like, go get a reality check of some
Yeah.
sort.
And this is where
Um,
bleisure, sorry to interrupt you, but like this is where bleisure kind of scares me a
oh,
little bit. And
yes.
if I'm going somewhere for work that's interesting, I will typically extend a couple days
Same.
pre or post. If I'm already
Yep.
going to be there, I want to stay a few
Yep.
days and explore and get to know the city or destination where we're going to be. But in the same vein, my work brain never really
Never shuts off.
separates from I'm on vacation now. Like I think I'm always still kind of in work mode. So bleisure, I get a little nervous with that
Oh yeah,
terminology a
I
little
can't
bit.
even go to like a sporting event in my local area without like looking at the signage. How much did they pay for that? What's the ingress? What's the egress? Like it's just who we are.
Yeah.
I did have someone tell me recently where they're like, Carly, if you were a teacher, if you were a doctor, like that's just who those people are. They're natural caregivers or they're natural, they have those skills. It's just a part of who they are. And we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be having this conversation with a teacher of like, you're just going to be a teacher for life and you're always going to, that's a huge part of your identity. Or if you were a doctor, you've worked so hard, you've gone through so much school and paid so much money. We wouldn't be having this conversation with a doctor. So why can't it be a good thing for us? Again, like you need the balance in your life, just like a doctor or a teacher does, but we don't ask that of those professions. So like if this can be a part of who we are, I'm really proud of that. I'm proud of what we've accomplished so far. I have so much more that I still want to do. I need the real. It's why I need people in my life to tell me to go touch grass again. But it's why having a Goodreads goal is really important. But no, like I do think it's okay. Like it's okay that this gets to be a part of my identity. And for what you're going through right now, I think happens in life. Like life just has transitions. Like we've all been through probably personal things that have been so hard and transitioned you into a different person or a different phase of life. And it happens career wise too.
Yeah.
I think you're handling it really well and with a lot of grace. But yeah, I can imagine the places where it feels really hard to let go or just iterate who you are. I hate the phrase let go.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's great perspective. And I
Yeah.
love the way you're reframing it. That kind of goes into my last topic I want to talk about is imposter syndrome. And you and I have shared many a cocktail conversations
Yeah.
around imposter syndrome. And in the same vein of like, we're so proud of what we do and we put this air of confidence out to our friends and family and so show up with pride about the work that we do and why we do it and how we show up. But yet then we get in a room with like-minded individuals and we know our shit. Like I know, but then
Hmm.
I still question like, are they really going to listen? Do I really know my stuff? Like, am I going to be challenged? And so I'm curious your perspective on imposter syndrome. I've reframed the way I think about it quite a bit over the last few years. Use it definitely as a checks and balance system. And I don't think of it as a negative. You know, I channel Martha. Martha
Yeah.
Stewart is like, what's imposter syndrome? Like one day I want to be Martha where I don't even think about it. But
Hmm.
how do you, one, does imposter syndrome show up in your life? And if it does, how do you combat that to know, like, I deserve to be in this room. I worked my ass off to be here and I deserve to be part of this conversation?
My current post-it is I didn't get here by accident. Yeah, imposter. It took me probably it took me all of last year to even know that that's what I was dealing with. So I absolutely have imposter syndrome. It is my goal in 2026 to work through it as much as I can. I don't know if it's something I'll ever fully shake. And yeah, when you start to tell people about it, they're like, "You seem like the most confident person ever." And I'm like, I'm trying. I do think I'm probably the best damn exhibit salesperson out there, the best sponsorship person out there, but it starts with that checks and balance system. I think it stemmed out of a place of trying to remain humble, trying to remain a learner in our industry. I do not know everything. And so trying to absorb as much as I could from people and making sure when I met a new person or worked with someone, like what could they teach me? And I have found I genuinely have the best mentors in the entire world because they are the ones that teach me so much and yet still raise me up to be the professional that I am. I started at our company when I was 21. I'm almost 33 at this point, and so that's just also like still kind of doing some of the same things over the amount of time. You're like, no, like I know what I'm talking about. I don't know everything. And like, where's that balance of I don't know everything. I still have so much to learn, but I didn't get here by accident. I'm not in this room or I'm not at this show by accident. And it just I started to realize that every opportunity I was being presented with last year, I almost the first phrase in my mind was, why do you want me to do it? Like that's crazy. That's crazy that that's my inner voice saying, why would you want me to do it? I remember like no one, like all event people, no one teaches you trade shows, right? No one teaches you events. There's so much lingo
Yeah, there's
that
no
we
like high school
do.
kid being like, you know what I want to do when I grow up? I'm
Yeah,
going to go to trade
exactly.
show
I want
school.
to go to trade show school and I want to learn what drayage means. And so it also started in the beginning of like, there's no real like pathway to learning that. And so you start to hear people drop this information or drop like square footage numbers, and you're like, I don't know what that is. And now I still, when I like go and onboard someone on our team and teach them that, I'm like on the side Googling, I'm like, this is what this means, right? Like, that's nuts, Carly. You know what this is. Like, so it is. It's so hard. And when you start to talk to other people about it, like you realize so many other people have it. There's a great professor, I don't remember his name right now, where he talks about like people who are have imposter syndrome are also people who are always going to challenge themselves. Like, is to your point, like, let's just reframe it. It is a good thing. I was just starting to notice toward the end of last year the places it was probably holding me back. And so we did not get here by accident. You did not get here by accident, Megan. And I'm going to really, really work through some of it this coming year.
And I think the professor you're talking about is Adam Grant.
Is that who it is? Okay.
His book Hidden Potential, which is an amazing read. I'm a super nerd
It's
of
going on my
Adam
Goodreads
Grant,
list
part of
then.
his book club and all the things. But there's an entire section about how having imposter syndrome actually means like you care more because you care
Yes.
how
Yes.
people
This
are
is exactly what it is.
perceiving you. Yeah.
Yes.
And you can use that internally to challenge yourself to make sure you've actually thought through a thought, a product, or whatever, on all the sides. So yeah, you're probably thinking about Adam Grant.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. All right. So last thing, and then we're going to close out here.
Yeah.
So one of the things with imposter syndrome, I deserve to be here. I forget the exact words that are on your sticky note, but I didn't get here by
By
accident.
accident. Yes.
And when we think about like career plateaus, I have never been a stagnant job person. I
Yeah.
have moved around a lot. And for a long time, people told me that that's probably a negative on my resume. You've stayed with a company for 12 years. I have literally never done that in my entire career. So two
Yeah.
very different
Yeah.
approaches to professional life.
Hmm.
And at, are you still as excited about your job 12 years later? Has it evolved? Are you continuing to evolve? Do you struggle with like, am I eventually going to plateau? And I'm going to preface this that I know a lot of association planners who have been an association planner. My biggest mentor in the industry had the same job for 35 years and he loved it. It was the
Yeah.
greatest thing ever. I can't imagine that being, I would get bored. I think I would plateau, but I'm also of the moving forward always.
Yeah.
Take the Ryan Serhant, getting bigger and better
Hmm.
always in all
Yeah.
the ways is kind of, I approach things very similarly. And so I'm curious with the imposter syndrome, it holds me back because I think like I can't do that or I'm not qualified for that or I shouldn't do it. And so I ended up staying in a few jobs probably longer. And it wasn't
Yeah.
until the pandemic hit that I was like, this doesn't serve me. This is not the right fit. And I just would move on quicker to not end up in those situations. But I'm curious for you, having taken a little bit of a different career path than I
Yeah.
have, staying with the same company, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Well, what's interesting is for two people that have two very different career paths, you can still experience some of the same things like
Yeah.
career plateaus or career transitions or imposter syndrome. I am very excited to do this job every day. That's because the nature of what it is. It's different every day. Again, I am so incredibly blessed that I do this job with people that I adore. The best book I read last year was called Unreasonable Hospitality. So Will Guidara, who runs the
So
Welcome
great.
Conference,
Yep.
within the first few pages, he wrote exactly like what I could never vocalize, which was running the number one restaurant in the world was never about winning number one. It was just about being around the people who wanted to be the best. And I work with people who want to do that every single day. So that alone gets you excited. But yeah, I mean, you certainly like start to think about like, what else could I be doing? I'm so lucky to work for a company that's quite large. We're a global organization. There's lots of different ways that you can be still a part of our organization and learn something new. I'm a constant learner. And so, yeah, I think all the time about like, how do I iterate what I'm currently doing to make it feel different? Um, or like what else within our organization could we be doing? The imposter syndrome is what holds you back though, right? And it holds you back even within your own company of like, I could ask for that. Like, what's the worst that they say? The worst that they're going to tell me is no. And it's a little bit of being like, no, you deserve it. Like, go have the confidence to go ask for it. And again, that's the places where I note the imposter syndrome is like probably
Sure.
not serving me in the way that I need it to right now. So yeah, like I can't do this for 35 years. I can't do this exact same thing for 35 years. I had was in my it might have been performance review, might have just been some time with one of my bosses recently. They're like, what do you want to do? I'm like, you see our CEO? Like, I want to do that. So what's the next thing that's going to help me be able to do that? Which was like a little bit of a win in the imposter syndrome for Carly to be able to even
Oh,
say that out loud.
well, congratulations.
We're
That's
not
pretty
there yet.
amazing.
So
Hey, look, everybody has to start somewhere, right?
you just
And
said it out loud. Yeah.
yeah, you just got to say it out loud sometimes. All right,
Mhm.
last question. I like to close out the after shows with something I call the closed door truth. It's the conversation that happens after the meeting when the decks are closed and the real issue is still sitting there. So, Carly, what's the hardest truth about this industry that doesn't get said publicly?
That it costs money. And so sometimes we have to do what we need to do to find the revenue to pay for it. And what I mean by that is I had a situation recently where I knew that if we just added like a couple extra logos or something to like something very basic, um,
And by logos, you don't mean like literal logos on there. You mean like we need some new sponsors.
yes. So I was like, but I knew that they did not have the budget. We were getting to a kind of a time frame where I was like, they're not even gonna be able to pull this out. But they had some level of money. We can't leave money on the table. We need money to fund these events. We need money to do some of this stuff. And while it'd be so like I have never in 10 years discounted a booth space, But yeah, on some sponsorship stuff or stuff that we played around with, I was like, look, our expenses are going to be covered on this. It is going to be a good attendee experience. It gets a new company introduced. Let's get them involved and just give them this deal. Whereas in reality, I'd love to like charge 3 times the amount. We need the money. We need it paid for. Like any of the great ideas that everyone is spitting out there, whether they're so far out in the world or they're really practical, it's all going to cost us money. And so we sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Couldn't agree more. Well, that is all the time we have for today. Thank you for joining us, Carly, and thanks for tuning in to
Thank
another
you.
Event About It After Show, because we know the best conversations happen after the show ends. Until next time, stay curious.